The stars were quiet in this part of space. No one had mapped these systems before. No one had given names to these worlds. Captain Park liked it that way. She stood at the front window of her small ship, the Wandering Star, and watched the darkness stretch out forever. "Another empty system," said Wu Xin from the pilot's seat. He was young, maybe 25, with quick hands and quicker reflexes. "That makes 12 this month." "Empty is good," replied. "Empty means safe for colonies. Mark it and move on." The Wandering Star was not a warship. It was barely a ship at all by military standards. 60 meters long, built for speed and survival, not combat. It carried equipment for scanning planets, testing atmospheres, and mapping asteroid fields. The crew was 6 people, 6 humans alone in the unknown. Sat at the tactical station, though there was little tactical about their mission. He was a big man with calm eyes and steady hands. Before joining the scout program, he had worked security on mining stations. He knew how to fight, but he had not fought anyone in 3 years. "I am picking up something strange," said. She handled communications and sensors. Her fingers moved across her console and her face showed confusion. "There are ships, many ships, big ones." Turned around, "How many?" 15, no wait, checked again. 15 confirmed, they are coming this way. The bridge went silent. 15 ships was not a patrol, 15 ships was a fleet. "Can you identify them?" asked. "Negative, the design is nothing in our database. They are not human." Han looked up from his engineering station. He was older than the others, with gray in his hair and oil on his hands. He had kept this ship running through worse situations than anyone wanted to remember. "First contact," he said quietly. "We trained for this." "We trained to say hello and call for diplomats," replied, "not to meet a war fleet." Made her decision quickly. "Open all frequencies. Broadcast our standard greeting. Tell them we are peaceful explorers. Wu, keep us steady but ready to move." The message went out. Waited, everyone waited. Far away, aboard the flagship of the Empire, 3 princes watched their screens with amusement. Prince was the eldest. He stood 8 feet tall with 4 arms and skin like gray stone. His armor was gold and red, the colors of conquest. He had won 6 wars and killed more enemies than he could count. He looked at the tiny human ship and laughed. "What is this?" he said. "A toy, a child's vessel." Prince stood beside him. He was shorter than but more cunning. His eyes were always calculating, always planning. "Unknown species," he said. "The computer cannot identify them. They are broadcasting some kind of message." "Play it." The bridge filled with the sound of a human voice speaking words of peace and friendship. The officers looked at each other with confusion. Prince, the youngest, stepped forward. He was smaller than his brothers, often ignored, often underestimated. "Perhaps we should respond," he said. "Learn who they are before we act." Turned to him with contempt. "Respond to insects. We are here to prove ourselves worthy of the throne. Father sent us to conquer, not to talk." "But they might have allies, they might." "Enough," raised one of his 4 hands. "I am eldest, I command this fleet, and I say we take them as our first trophy." He gave the order to fire. On the Wandering Star, the first blast hit without warning. The ship shook so hard that the medic was thrown from her seat. Alarms screamed. Lights flickered red. "They are attacking," shouted. "I noticed." Wu was already moving, his hands flying across the controls. The ship dove left as another blast burned through the space where they had been. "These guys are not friendly." Grabbed her chair to stay standing. "Damage report." "Hull breach on deck 2, minor. Shields at 60%. They hit us with something big." Another blast. The ship spun. Watched his screen with growing horror. "Captain, those ships are massive. Each one is at least 2 kilometers long. Their weapons could destroy a small moon." "Then why are we not dead?" asked. Wu answered while dodging another attack. "Because they cannot hit us. We are too small, too fast. Their targeting systems are built for big ships, not little ones like us." It was true. The fleet had never fought an enemy this small. Their weapons were designed for destroying battleships, not survey vessels. The wandering star slipped through their fire like a fish through water. But they could not dodge forever. "We need to run," said. She was bleeding from a cut on her head but already treating herself. "Jump to hyperspace. Get out of here." "The jump drive needs 5 minutes to charge," replied. "We do not have 5 minutes." On the flagship, Prince was no longer laughing. His face was twisted with anger. "How is this possible? Destroy them." "We are trying, my prince," said his tactical officer. "But the vessel is too agile. Our systems cannot lock on." "Then use all ships. Surround them." The 15 warships spread out, forming a net of death around the tiny human scout ship. There was nowhere left to run. Watch the enemy ships close in. She thought about her crew. 6 people who trusted her. 6 people who would die because some aliens decided to shoot first and ask questions never. She had a choice. She could surrender. Maybe the aliens would take them prisoner. Maybe they would survive. Or she could fight. Had never been good at surrender. "Listen to me," she said, her voice steady and cold. "We are not going to die today, not like this. Wu, keep us moving. I need everything you can give me. Find me a weakness in those ships. Keep trying to contact them. And be ready. This is going to get ugly." Her crew looked at her. They were scared. They were tired, but they trusted her. "We are scouts," continued. "We are trained to survive in places that want to kill us. These aliens do not know what they are dealing with, so let us teach them." Wu smiled despite the fear. "Yes, Captain." The wandering star turned toward the enemy fleet. 6 humans against 15 warships. The battle for survival had begun. The wandering star was never built for war. It was built to explore, to map, to discover. But in the hands of desperate humans, even a tool could become a weapon. Wu Xin flew like a madman. He pushed the small ship through gaps that should have been impossible. He used asteroids as shields. He flew so close to enemy hulls that their weapons could not track him without risking hitting their own ships. "Left, hard left," shouted. Wu did not question. He moved. A massive energy beam cut through the space where they had been half a second ago. "How did you know?" Wu asked. "Their weapons glow before they fire. I have been watching, learning." This was what humans did. They learned. They adapted. They found patterns in chaos and used them to survive. On the flagship, Prince could not believe what he was seeing. The tiny ship was still alive. It danced between his warships like a ghost, impossible to catch, impossible to kill. "This is madness," said Prince. "We are wasting ammunition on a single vessel." "We will not stop until it is destroyed," growled. "It has made fools of us." Prince watched the tactical display in silence. Something was wrong. The small ship moved faster than any vessel he had ever seen. Not faster in straight lines, but faster in reaction. It dodged before his ships even fired, as if the crew could see the future. They could not see the future, but they could see the glow of charging weapons, and their reflexes were faster than anything they had ever encountered. Han worked miracles in the engine room. Sparks flew around him. Systems overheated and died. He brought them back to life with prayers and spare parts. "I need more power to the shields," called through the communicator. "There is no more power," shouted back. "Everything is already at maximum." "Then find more." Looked at his engine. He thought about the rules. He thought about safety limits and proper procedures. Then he threw all of that away. He rerouted life support power to the shields. The air would get thin, but they would survive. He pushed the reactor beyond its rated limits. Warning lights screamed at him. He ignored them. He took power from the lights, from the heating, from everything that was not essential for staying alive in the next 5 minutes. The shield strengthened. A blast hit them directly. The ship shook but held together. Whatever you did, keep doing it, said. Meanwhile, moved through the ship, treating injuries as they happened. A broken arm here, a deep cut there, burns from electrical fires. She worked without stopping, without complaining, without slowing down. When she reached at the communication station, she found the young woman still working despite a piece of metal sticking out of her shoulder. You need treatment. Later, did not look up from her console. I am doing something important. She was not just trying to contact the aliens anymore. She was studying their communications, their signals, their sensor patterns. I can fool them, said. Their sensors are not very smart. They look for big ships with big energy signatures. I can make ghost images, fake ships. Do it. Fingers flew across her console. Suddenly the sensors showed not one human ship but 5, then 10, then 20. On the flagship, chaos erupted. New contacts, dozens of enemy vessels. Where did they come from? They appeared from nowhere. Prince stared at his screen in confusion. Reinforcements. They called for reinforcements. But Prince looked closer. No, he said quietly. Those are not real, look at them. They all move the same way. They are copies, illusions. Illusions, said. That is impossible. Our sensors are the most advanced in the galaxy. Apparently not. The gunners did not know which targets were real. They fired at ghosts, while the real wandering star slipped away again and again. Hours passed. The humans did not stop. They did not rest. They could not rest. In biology, rest was not optional. After 8 hours of activity, a needed to sleep. Their bodies demanded it. Their minds would not function without it. Humans were different. Humans could push through exhaustion. They could ignore pain. They could run on nothing but willpower and desperation for days if necessary. As the 8th hour approached, the crews began to slow. Their reactions became sluggish. Their accuracy dropped. The humans noticed. They are getting tired, observed. Their fire rate has decreased by 30%. Ours has not, replied. Keep pressure on them. By now, the survey drones had been modified, had turned the small machines into weapons. They carried mining charges designed to break apart asteroids. Against armored warships, they were like mosquitoes, but mosquitoes could still bite. Wu guided the drones toward the nearest enemy ship. They attached to the hull near the shield generators. Ready, said. Do it. The charges exploded. The shield generator died. For one moment, the massive warship was vulnerable. Fired everything they had. The shots were small. They should have done nothing. But they hit the exposed hull, the unprotected systems, the sensitive equipment that was never designed to take direct fire. The warship did not explode, but it stopped moving. Its lights went dark. It drifted dead in space. On the flagship, there was silence. They killed a warship, Prince whispered. A survey ship killed one of our warships. Prince's face was purple with rage. Impossible. This is impossible. But it had happened. Everyone had seen it. Prince felt something he had never felt before in battle. He felt fear. Not fear of dying, but fear of something worse. Fear of being wrong. Fear that everything he believed about his empire, his military, his superiority was a lie. Brothers, he said carefully, perhaps we should retreat, regroup, study this enemy before we continue. Turned on him with fury in his eyes. Retreat. You want us to run from insects. I want us to survive. They have already cost us 1 ship. How many more will we lose? We have 14 ships left. They have one tiny ship with no real weapons. And yet that one tiny ship is winning. The words hung in the air. No one spoke, even could not deny the truth. But he would not accept it either. We will crush them, he said, his voice low and dangerous. We will crush them if it takes everything we have. All ships full pursuit. Do not stop until that vessel is ash. The fleet moved as one, hunting the small human ship with desperate determination. And on the wandering star, Captain Park watched them come. Her ship was damaged. Her crew was exhausted. They had won a small victory, but the war was far from over. "Ideas?" she asked. Looked at his screen. He looked at the enemy ships. He looked at their own pathetic weapons. Then he smiled. "I have one," he said, "but you are not going to like it." "Laugh despite everything. Tell me anyway." The battle continued, and the humans refused to die. In the Empire, scouts were the lowest of the low. They were soldiers who could not fight, criminals given a second chance. The unwanted, the untrained, the expendable. When the Empire needed information about enemy territory, they sent scouts to die. If the scouts survived long enough to send back useful data, that was a bonus. If they died, no one cared. This was how the universe worked as far as the new. Scouts were worthless. Scouts were weak. Scouts were nothing. They did not understand humans. Captain Park had trained for 7 years before she was allowed to command a scout ship. She had studied navigation, survival, combat, diplomacy, medicine, engineering, and a dozen other skills. She had competed against 10,000 candidates. Only 50 made it through. She was the best of the best. So was her crew. Had been a security specialist on the most dangerous mining station in human space. He had faced pirates, accidents, and disasters. He had kept 300 workers alive through situations that should have killed them all. He chose to become a scout because he wanted to see what was beyond the known stars. Han had built ships with his own hands. He understood machines the way other people understood language. He could fix anything, build anything, improve anything. He had turned down a fortune to work for corporate shipyards because he wanted adventure instead of money. Had worked in emergency medicine during the Titan plague, treating thousands of patients with limited supplies and no sleep. She had seen death so many times that it no longer scared her. What scared her was giving up. What scared her was stopping. Had been a communications genius since childhood. She could make any system talk to any other system. She could break codes, create codes, and understand signals that others could not even detect. The Scout program recruited her when she was 19 years old. Wu Xin was the youngest pilot to ever qualify for deep space missions. His reflexes had been tested at 3 times normal human speed. He could fly through an asteroid field blindfolded. He was also slightly crazy, which helped. These were not expendable soldiers. These were the finest humans available, chosen for their intelligence, their creativity, their determination, and their refusal to accept defeat. The princes did not know any of this. They saw a small ship with minimal weapons and assumed they were fighting weaklings. They were wrong. 11 hours into the battle, the fleet had lost 2 more ships. The wandering star had led them through an asteroid field, using the rocks as weapons. One warship had collided with a massive asteroid while chasing the humans. Another had been disabled when its engines overheated from extended pursuit. The remaining 12 ships were damaged, tired, and confused. On the wandering star, things were not much better. The hull had dozens of holes patched with emergency sealant. The shields were barely functioning. 3 of the 6 crew members were injured, but they were alive. Against all odds, they were still alive. "We cannot keep this up forever," said. She was treating a burn on his arm while he continued working on the engines. "Eventually, they will catch us." "Then we need to do something unexpected," replied. "More unexpected than surviving for 11 hours against 15 warships?" asked with a tired smile. "Yes." Had been monitoring enemy communications since the battle began. She had learned their language through pattern recognition and translation algorithms. Now she could understand most of what they were saying. "They are arguing," she reported. "The princes are fighting with each other. The oldest one wants to continue the attack. The middle one wants to fall back and call for support. The youngest one wants to surrender." "Surrender?" Wu laughed. "They want to surrender to us." "No, he wants them to let us surrender. He thinks they have proven their point and should stop wasting resources. Considered this information: 3 princes, 3 opinions, conflict in the enemy leadership. Can you identify which ship each prince is on? Worked her console. The oldest is on the main flagship, the second largest ship. The middle one is on the third ship in their formation. The youngest is on the flagship. So if we take out the flagship, we take out 2 princes at once. And their command structure added, the other ships would be confused, leaderless. It was insane. The flagship was the most heavily armed, most heavily shielded ship in the fleet. It was designed to survive attacks from entire enemy fleets. But they had designed their ships to fight other. They expected enemies to follow certain rules, attack from certain angles, use certain tactics. Humans did not follow rules. Wu said slowly, "Can you get us close to that flagship?" "How close?" "Close enough to land on it." Everyone stared at her. "You want to board them?" asked. "We are 6 people. They probably have hundreds of soldiers on that ship." They have hundreds of soldiers who have been awake for 11 hours, who are confused and scared and do not understand what they are fighting. Eyes were bright with desperate determination. They expect us to run. They expect us to hide. They do not expect us to attack. Because attacking is stupid, pointed out. Exactly, so they will not be ready for it. The crew was silent. They looked at each other. They thought about their chances. Wu spoke first. "I can get us there. There is a gap in their shield coverage when they rotate their generators. It lasts about 3 seconds every 40 seconds. I can force open an airlock if we can reach the hull," said. "Their systems are not that different from ours. I can track enemy movements using their own internal sensors," added. "Once we are inside, I can guide us anywhere." Checked his weapon. It was a small sidearm designed for personal defense, not military grade, but in the right hands it was enough. "I am not dying in this tin can. If we are going to die, let us die doing something memorable." Sighed and began preparing her medical kit for field operations. "I always wanted to see the inside of an alien ship." Felt something like pride. Her crew was scared. They were exhausted, but they were ready to fight. "All right," she said. "Here is the plan. We wait for their next rest cycle. Their crews are already tired. In 2 hours they will be barely functional. That is when we move. And then we show these princes what human scouts can really do." The wandering star went dark, hiding in the shadow of an asteroid while the crew prepared. They checked weapons. They studied ship layouts that had pulled from intercepted data. They said quiet goodbyes just in case. 2 hours later, the fleet was sluggish and slow. Crews were falling asleep at their stations. Officers were making mistakes. The wandering star powered up and shot toward the flagship like a bullet. They barely had time to react. By the time they started firing, the small human ship was already too close. It slipped through the shield gap that Wu had predicted, exactly as planned. The ship hit the flagship's hull and attached with magnetic clamps. Forced the airlock open. 6 humans entered the enemy vessel. The real battle was about to begin. The inside of the flagship was massive. Corridors stretched 20 feet wide and 15 feet tall, built for beings much larger than humans. The walls were dark metal with glowing symbols that served as direction markers. The air smelled strange, like old copper and burning wood. Was the first through the airlock. She held her weapon ready and moved quickly, staying low, staying quiet. Behind her, the others followed in silence. "Left corridor," whispered through their communication devices. She was watching the ship's internal sensors from her portable console. 2 guards ahead, 40 meters. The guards were soldiers. Each one stood 8 feet tall with 4 arms, gray skin, and black eyes. They wore armor that looked heavy enough to stop bullets. They carried weapons that could punch holes through steel. They were also half asleep. 19 hours. The battle had lasted 19 hours. The soldiers had been awake the entire time, standing at their posts, waiting for an attack that never came in the way they expected. Now it came from inside. Moved first. He was not a soldier anymore, but he remembered his training. He remembered what humans could do when they needed to survive. The first guard did not even see him. One moment, everything was quiet. The next moment was on him, jamming a metal rod into the gap between his helmet and his armor. The gasped and fell. The second guard turned, raising his weapon. He was too slow, was already there, injecting something into his neck. The eyes went wide, then empty. He collapsed beside his companion. "What was that?" Wu asked. "Medical sedative," replied calmly. "I modified the dose for their body mass. He will sleep for hours. Remind me never to make you angry." They moved deeper into the ship, guided them through maintenance corridors and service tunnels, avoiding the main paths where more guards waited. The ship was designed for, but humans were smaller. They could fit through spaces that could not. 15 minutes into the infiltration, they encountered their first real resistance. A squad of 6 soldiers blocked their path. These were not tired guards. These were elite warriors, fully awake, fully armed, and fully aware that something was wrong. The lead warrior saw the humans and laughed. Actually laughed. Here were 6 tiny creatures, barely half the size of a proper, armed with weapons that looked like toys. What could they possibly do? He found out quickly. Humans did not fight fair. They could not afford to fight fair. They were smaller, weaker, and fewer in number, so they fought dirty. Threw a device into the corridor. It was a grenade, improvised from ship parts designed to overload senses. The explosion of light and sound was devastating. The warriors stumbled, blinded and deaf. The humans attacked while they were helpless. Went for the largest warrior. He did not try to match strength with strength. Instead, he targeted weak points, joints, gaps in armor, eyes. The swung wildly, hitting nothing. Moved around him like water, striking again and again until the giant fell. Wu fought with pure chaos. He jumped, rolled, climbed walls, and never stayed in one place. They could not track him. They could not predict his movements. He used their confusion against them, making them hit each other while he danced away. Was terrifying in her efficiency. She knew anatomy. She knew where to cut, where to press, where to inject. Every strike was precise. Every movement was calculated. 3 went down without understanding what had happened. Stayed back, providing information and support. She saw through the ship's sensors. She warned of incoming threats. She opened doors and closed doors, trapping enemies and creating escape routes. Fought like a commander. She watched everything, coordinated everyone, and struck when necessary. Her weapon was small, but she used it perfectly. Not to kill, but to disable, to create openings, to protect her team. In 90 seconds, all 6 warriors were down. The humans stood among the fallen giants, breathing hard, bleeding from small wounds, but alive. "That was insane," Wu said. "That was necessary," replied. "Move, they will send more." They ran. On the bridge of the flagship, Prince received the reports with growing horror. Intruders on his ship. His elite guards defeated. 6 tiny aliens carving a path through his finest soldiers. "How is this possible?" he demanded. No one had an answer. Prince watched the security feeds with cold calculation. He saw how the humans moved, how they fought, how they cooperated. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. "They do not fight like soldiers," he said slowly. "They fight like survivors, like animals cornered and desperate." "They are animals," spat, "and we will put them down." He ordered all available troops to hunt the intruders. Hundreds of soldiers began converging on the humans' location. But saw them coming. "Bad news," she said. "They are sending everyone after us. We have maybe 10 minutes before we are surrounded." "Then we need to reach the bridge in 10 minutes. replied. The bridge is heavily defended. Direct assault is impossible. Who said anything about direct? Had studied the ship's layout. She had noticed something interesting. The flagship's bridge was protected by multiple security checkpoints, armed guards, and heavy doors. But the ventilation system connected everywhere. You want us to crawl through the vents? Asked in disbelief. The vents are too small for. They probably never considered them a security risk. Because no sane person would crawl through a ship's ventilation system during a combat situation. Exactly. The vents were tight, dark, and hot. The humans crawled in single file, moving as quickly as they could through the metal tunnels. Behind them, they could hear the distant sounds of soldiers searching empty corridors, finding nothing. 8 minutes later, they reached the bridge. Through the vent cover could see the command center below. Prince stood at the center, shouting orders. Prince stood nearby, watching with worried eyes. Officers ran back and forth, trying to coordinate the hunt for intruders who had seemingly vanished. They did not look up. Why would they? The threat was supposed to be in the corridors, not in the ceiling. Counted the enemies, 20 officers, 10 guards, 2 princes. Against 6 exhausted humans with minimal weapons. The odds were terrible. Smiled. On my signal, she whispered. She kicked out the vent cover and dropped into the bridge. Prince turned just in time to see a small human woman falling toward him with death in her eyes. The chaos that followed would become legend. Not among humans, who would never know this battle happened, but among the who would never forget. Hit the deck rolling and came up firing. Her first shot took out a communication console. Her second disabled a guard's weapon. She was not trying to kill everyone in the room. She was trying to create chaos. It worked. The other 5 humans dropped from the ceiling moments later. They spread out immediately, each moving to a different part of the bridge, each creating their own storm of destruction. The officers panicked. They were not soldiers. They were navigators, engineers, tactical specialists. They had never expected to fight hand-to-hand on their own bridge. They ran, they screamed, they got in each other's way. The guards tried to respond. They raised their weapons and aimed at the intruders. But humans were small. Humans were fast. And humans used the panicking officers as cover, making it impossible to get a clear shot without hitting their own people. Engaged 3 guards at once. He moved between them like a shadow, never staying still, never giving them a target. When one guard finally fired, was already gone. The blast hit another guard instead. "Watch your fire," someone shouted. No one listened. The bridge was pure chaos. Found a control panel and began working. His fingers moved faster than anyone could follow. Within seconds, he had locked down the bridge doors. No reinforcements could enter. No one could escape. "Doors sealed," he reported. "We have maybe 5 minutes before they cut through." "Then we finish this in 4, replied. Prince stood at the center of the storm, watching his command collapse around him. He was a warrior. He had fought in 6 wars. He had never lost. He was not going to lose now. "Enough," he roared. He grabbed the nearest human, which happened to be, and lifted her off the ground with 2 of his 4 arms. His other 2 arms drew weapons and pointed them at the other humans. "Stop or I crush her." Everyone froze. Hung in his grip, her feet dangling above the floor. She looked small and helpless in his massive hands. Any normal person would have been terrified. Smiled. "You should not have grabbed a medic," she said. Then she stabbed him. The needle was tiny, designed for precise medical injections. It slipped between the gaps in his armor and found the nerve cluster in his shoulder. The substance inside was not a sedative this time. It was a stimulant, a massive dose of pure chemical energy, enough to send his nervous system into overdrive. His muscles seized. His arms spasmed. He dropped and staggered backward, his body betraying him as the drug raced through his system. What did you do to me? I overloaded your nervous system. Every nerve in your body is firing at maximum right now. The pain must be incredible. It was screamed. Not a battle cry, not a roar of anger, but a scream of pure agony. The greatest warrior of the Empire fell to his knees, howling like a wounded animal. Prince saw his opportunity. While everyone was focused on, he slipped toward a side door, a private escape route. He had planned for disasters. He had always planned for disasters. But was watching. Captain, the second prince is running. Side door, northeast corner. Looked up and saw disappearing through the door. She could chase him. She could try to stop him. But was still a threat. The remaining guards were still fighting. She could not do both. Let him go, she decided. Finish what we started. The battle on the bridge lasted 3 more minutes. When it was over, the guards were down. The officers had surrendered, and Prince lay on the floor, still trembling from chemical attack. Prince had not moved during the entire fight. He had watched from his position near the main, making no attempt to fight, no attempt to run. Now he stepped forward, his hands raised in surrender. I yield, he said. His voice was calm, almost respectful. You have won. Kept her weapon trained on him, just like that. Just like that, I am not my brother's. I know when a battle is lost. Your brother did not seem to agree. Looked at, still shaking on the floor. My brother is a fool, he always was. He thought strength was everything. He did not understand that there are other kinds of power. What kinds? Intelligence, adaptability, will. His dark eyes studied with something like admiration. Your people have all 3, we have. We have size and numbers. Today that was not enough. Did not lower her weapon. You killed one of our colony ships 3 years ago, 2,000 people. Blinked, I do not understand. You attacked us without warning, without communication, without mercy. 2,000 humans died because you saw a small ship and decided it was prey. That was not me. I did not know. I swear I did not know about any colony ship. Saw the truth in his eyes. He really did not know, which meant the Empire had attacked humans before, and this young prince had no idea. How many times? How many ships? How many humans had died because they could not see them as anything but targets? The anger burned inside her. She could kill right now. She could end the entire royal line. It would be justice. But justice was not her mission. Survival was her mission. Getting her crew home was her mission. She said, "Can you pilot this ship? The controls are different, but the principles are the same. Give me 10 minutes to figure it out." You have 5. Contact the rest of their fleet. Tell them we have their princes and their flagship. Tell them to stand down or we start shooting. Hesitated. Will they believe us? Make them believe. The message went out. On the remaining ships, crews stared at their screens in disbelief. The tiny human ship had not only survived, it had captured the flagship. It had captured their princes. This was impossible. This was insane. This was happening. One by one, the ships powered down their weapons. One by one, they signaled their surrender. On the captured flagship, 6 humans finally allowed themselves to breathe. Wu sat down against a wall and laughed. We actually did it. We actually won. Not yet, said. She was watching Prince, who was watching her right back. We need to get home, and we need to make sure this never happens again. How do we do that? Thought about it. She thought about diplomacy and treaties and alliances. She thought about threats and demonstrations of power. Then she thought about something simpler. We show them who we are, she said, not who they thought we were. The journey back to human space would take 3 days. In that time would have many conversations with Prince. She would learn about his empire, his culture, his fears. And she would teach him about humanity. The lesson would change everything. The flagship moved slowly through space, guided by human hands for the first time, had figured out the controls quickly enough. The technology was different from human systems, but the basic ideas were the same. Ships were ships. Engines were engines. The universe followed the same rules everywhere. Behind them, 4 surviving warships followed at a safe distance. They had surrendered, but they had not left. They waited, watching, hopping for something that would restore their honor. On the bridge, the crew sat in silence under human guard. They had expected to be killed. That was what the Empire did with prisoners. Instead, the humans had treated their wounds, given them food, and told them to stay calm. It made no sense to them. Prince was separated from the others. He sat in the captain's quarters, now occupied by having the strangest conversation of his life. "You truly have no military?" he asked for the 3rd time. He could not believe it. He did not want to believe it. "We have defense forces," explained patiently. "Small ships that protect our colonies from pirates and asteroids. Police forces that keep order on our worlds. But a war fleet, armies. No, we have none of that." "Then what are you? If you are not soldiers, what are you?" Leaned back in her chair. She was exhausted beyond measure. 22 hours without sleep. Multiple injuries that had patched but not fully healed. But she could not rest yet. This conversation was too important. "I told you before, we are scouts. Survey and reconnaissance. We map stars. We study planets. We look for places where our people can live. But the way you fight, the things you did, no simple explorers could do that." "We are not simple," smiled slightly. "The humans who go into the unknown are not simple at all. We are chosen for our skills, our intelligence, our ability to survive. The universe is dangerous, Prince. Every planet wants to kill you. Every star can destroy you. We learn to face those dangers or we die." Was quiet for a long moment. He thought about his own empire's scouts. The criminals, the failures, the expendables. "In my empire, scouts are worthless," he admitted. "They are the lowest members of our military. We send them to die so that better soldiers do not have to." "I know, we saw it in your data. That was why you underestimated us." Yes, the admission hurt, but it was true. "We assumed you were weak because your ship was small. We assumed you were expendable because you were few. We were wrong." "You were very wrong." Looked at the human woman across from him. She was tiny by standards. He could break her in half with one arm, but he had seen what she could do. He had seen her crew tear through elite warriors like paper. And they were not even soldiers. The thought kept returning, burning in his mind like a brand. "Captain Park," he said slowly, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly." "I will try." "If your scouts can do what you did, what happens when you send soldiers?" Did not answer immediately. She thought about it. She thought about human history, the wars, the conflicts, the terrible weapons they had built, the nuclear fire, the engineered plagues, the horrors that humans had inflicted on each other. They had stopped eventually. They had learned better. They had chosen peace. But the capacity for violence was still there. Buried deep, locked away, but never truly gone. "We do not have soldiers now," she said carefully. "But we did once. Long ago, our ancestors fought wars that make your empire's conquests look like children playing games. We killed billions of our own kind. We burned our own world. We came close to destroying ourselves completely. Felt cold, billions. Billions. And that was when we only had one planet, when we only had primitive weapons compared to what we have now. But you stopped. We stopped because we chose to stop, because we realized that if we kept fighting, there would be nothing left worth fighting for. So we put away our weapons. We focused on building instead of destroying. We reached for the stars. And if someone forces you to fight again..." His expression changed. For a moment, something dark passed behind her eyes, something ancient and terrible. "Then pray you are not our enemy." Understood, he finally understood. The humans were not weak. They were not peaceful because they could not fight. They were peaceful because they chose to be, because they were afraid of what they might become if they started fighting again. And his brother had attacked them. His empire had killed their people. They had woken something that should have been left sleeping. "Captain," he said quietly, "I need to warn you about something. My brother escaped. He will return to our father. He will tell lies. He will say you attacked without reason, that you are monsters, that you must be destroyed." I assumed as much. My father controls 300 star systems, 20,000 warships, billions of soldiers. If he decides to go to war with your people, he will send everything. Nodded slowly. "And what do you think will happen then?" Did not answer. He did not need to. They both knew. The empire would burn. "I will not let that happen," said. "When I return to my people, I will tell the truth. I will show them what really happened. I will make them understand that peace is the only option." "Will they listen to you?" "I am a prince. I have authority, and I have something my father values above all else." "What?" "Survival. My father is ruthless, but he is not stupid. If I can show him that war with humanity means the end of our empire, he will choose peace." Studied him for a long moment. This young prince, smaller than his brothers, often ignored, often underestimated. He reminded her of herself. "Why are you helping us?" she asked. "We killed your brother, we humiliated your fleet, we are your enemies." Shook his head. "My brother was going to kill you for sport. Your people have done nothing to deserve that. And yes, you fought back. You defended yourselves. That does not make you enemies. That makes you survivors." He paused, then added something quieter. "I think my empire has made many enemies by mistake. We attack because we can. We conquer because it is what we have always done. But we never stop to ask if we should. You have made me think about that. You have made me want to be better." Felt something unexpected, hope. Maybe this did not have to end in war. Maybe something good could come from this nightmare. "Rest, Prince," she said. "We will reach human space soon. When we do, I will release you. Go home, tell your truth, save your empire from itself." "And you, what will you do?" Looked out the window at the stars. So many of them, so many possibilities. "I will do what I have always done. I will explore, I will discover, I will protect my people. Even if that means fighting." She turned back to him with steel in her eyes. "Especially if that means fighting." The rescue fleet was nothing impressive. 3 ships, each one smaller than the warships. They were medical transports and cargo haulers, painted white with red crosses on their hulls, the symbol of human emergency services. When they arrived at the rendezvous point, the remaining crews watched in confusion. They had expected warships. They had expected the might of the human military to appear and crush them. Instead, they got ambulances. Captain released Prince and the captured crews as promised. She kept the flagship only long enough to transfer her crew to the rescue ships. Then she let it go, along with all the surviving enemy vessels. "Go home," she told through the communication channel. "Remember what we talked about." "I will not forget," he replied. "I will never forget." The ships jumped to hyperspace and vanished. On the rescue transport, a medic checked injuries and shook her head in amazement. "How are you even standing? You have 3 cracked ribs, a concussion, and enough bruises to paint a mural." "Stubborn," replied. "Very, very stubborn." She did not mention the rest of her crew. Had a broken arm. Had internal bleeding that needed surgery. Had burns covering 20% of his body. Had lost partial hearing in one ear. Wu had a fractured leg and a skull fracture that should have killed him. They were all alive. Against every odd, against every logical calculation, they had all survived. The scout program leadership would want reports. They would want explanations. They would want to understand how 6 people in a survey ship had defeated a battle fleet. Did not have good answers for them. She only knew that her crew had refused to give up. That was all. That was everything. 3 weeks later, on the other side of the galaxy, Prince stood before his father. Emperor of the Empire was ancient by any standard. He had ruled for 200 years. He had conquered 50 star systems personally. He had killed more enemies than any other in history. He listened to his son's report in cold silence. "Let me understand," the Emperor said when finished. "You took 15 warships against a single small vessel. You lost 10 of those ships. You lost your brother, and the enemy captured your flagship." "Father, they were not normal enemies. They were." "You lost to 6 aliens on a mapping mission." The Emperor's roar shook the throne room. "6, and you come to me with excuses." Fell to his knees. "I speak only the truth. These humans are dangerous beyond anything we have faced. They fight without honor. They adapt without limit. They do not surrender. They do not retreat. They do not die when they should." "Then perhaps you should have killed them when you had the chance." We tried everything." The Emperor waved a hand. Guards stepped forward and seized. The prince did not resist. He knew the punishment for failure. "Take him away. He will face trial for cowardice and incompetence." As was dragged from the throne room, the doors opened again. Prince entered, walking calmly, carrying no weapons, wearing no armor. The Emperor stared at his youngest son. "You survived." "I did." "The humans released you." "They did." "Why?" Took a deep breath. This was the moment that would determine the future of his empire, of his people, of billions of lives. "Because they wanted peace," he said, "and because they wanted to send a message." He activated a device he carried. The throne room filled with holographic images, security footage from the flagship, recording of the battle, every moment of the human attack preserved in perfect detail. The Emperor watched 6 small aliens tear through his finest soldiers. He watched them board a ship 50 times the size of their own vessel. He watched them defeat his eldest son and capture his command. When it was over, the Emperor said nothing for a long time. "These recordings," he finally said, "they are real. Completely real, I them myself. And you say they are not soldiers, they are explorers. They are what humans call scouts. Their purpose is to find new worlds for colonization. They carry minimal weapons. They have no military training. They are scientists and engineers and pilots." The Emperor processed this information. His tactical mind, honed over 2 centuries of warfare, ran the calculations. "If their scouts can do this," he said slowly, "what could their soldiers do?" "They claim to have no soldiers." "Claim?" Nodded. "I believe them. I also believe it does not matter. Father, these humans have something more dangerous than armies. They have the ability to become armies whenever they need to. Every single one of them is capable of what you just saw, billions of them, across hundreds of worlds." The Emperor sat back on his throne. For the first time in 200 years, he felt something he had almost forgotten. "Fear." "What do they want?" he asked. "Peace, trade, cooperation. They do not want war." "Then why did they attack us?" "They did not attack us. We attacked them. Brother fired first without warning, without communication. The humans defended themselves." The Emperor was silent again. He thought about his empire. 300 star systems, 20,000 warships, the greatest military power in the known galaxy. And it might not be enough. "Summon the Senate," he ordered. "All members, emergency session." 1 month later, a diplomatic ship appeared at the edge of human space. It carried no weapons. It broadcast messages of friendship and requests for negotiation. The humans, confused but willing, sent their own diplomats to meet them. In the halls of the Senate, Emperor stood before his people and spoke words that no emperor had ever spoken before. "We will not fight the humans," he declared. "We will not conquer them. We will not threaten them. Instead, we will offer friendship. We will offer trade. We will offer peace. The Senate erupted in protest. Warriors shouted about honor. Generals demanded revenge. Traditionalists called for war. But Prince stood beside his father and showed the recordings again. 6 humans, 15 warships, 22 hours. The Senate fell silent. And on a small medical station in human space, Captain Park sat beside her recovering crew and watched the news feeds with quiet satisfaction. "We did it," Wu said. "We actually changed the galaxy." "We survived," corrected him. "That was all. Everything else was just consequences." Laughed despite his injuries. Pretty big consequences for a mapping mission. "Next time I am asking for hazard pay," muttered. Said nothing. She was already asleep, exhausted beyond any medicine's help. Watched the diplomatic reports scroll across the screen. Ambassadors arriving in human space. Trade agreements being negotiated. A 1,000-year-old empire bowing its head for the first time in history. "Do you think it will last?" she asked. "The peace?" Considered the question. She thought about Prince, somewhere out there fighting to change his people. She thought about human nature, capable of such violence and such mercy. She thought about the vast universe, full of dangers and wonders and unknowns. "Maybe," she said, "or maybe not, but we gave them a reason to try. That is all anyone can do." She stood up, wincing at her injuries, and walked to the window. The stars stretched out before her, endless and beautiful and dangerous. Somewhere out there, new worlds waited to be discovered. New mysteries waited to be solved. New challenges waited to be faced. The wandering star was destroyed, but there would be other ships, other crews, other scouts heading into the darkness to light the way for those who followed. "Rest up," told her crew. "When we are healed, there is more work to do." Wu grinned. "More impossible battles against alien empires." "Hopefully not, but I have learned not to make promises about that." They laughed. Even half asleep smiled at the joke. Outside, the universe waited. And humanity, as always, was ready to meet it.